Rabbil Alameen. Okay. Mainly this is just a talk about kind of stuff that's right at hand and things that are very simple. They're right in front of your face. It reminds me of those things we talked about many times, like acres of diamonds. You know, the guy that had that nice farm in Africa. He heard about all the people getting rich, finding diamonds and everything. I know it's boring, but I'll mention it anyway. The guy he had a friend visit him, and the guy had found some pebbles and rocks down in the stream, and he had them up on his fireplace. So his friend happened to be a geologist, and he looked up there. He say, "Where did you get these rocks?" It's all down in the stream. It's the hell of the place is full of them. They're everywhere, those kind of rocks. Because, you know, diamonds don't look like all polished up and cut and set. You know, so this is the guy that had bought the farm from the other guy that wanted to find diamond mines. And he sold the farm to this guy, and he went off and finally became discouraged and jumped in the ocean and killed himself. You know, just from discouragement. While he had the biggest diamond mine in South Africa, he was living on it, you know. And that reminds us of the same thing about lower your bucket. Because fresh water, this deals with the Amazon, and the Amazon River is 60 times as big as the Mississippi. Let me say that again, because a lot of times people, what? Yeah, the Amazon in flow of water, the flow is 60 times as big as the Mississippi. And I know I was given a talk up in Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin. And when you would go to the university, you'd cross a little thing and it would say Mississippi River. It was like technically a stream, you know. And, but I remember I said, Mississippi River. And even when I was giving a lecture, I could look out the window and see the sign, Mississippi River. Now, I was always used to the Mississippi River when I was in Louisiana, crossing the Mississippi River, right? You could cross it 3 times down there, or the Mississippi River and you go across the Mississippi, not in Ohio, but down the way a little bit. Missouri, yeah, because there's the Missouri River, then there's the Mississippi River. And then right down there, when you leave here, you hit the Mississippi right at St. Louis. And they look like the Mississippi River there. But up in Wisconsin, it says Mississippi River, and you used to looking at it down there, and Oh, that's serious. So things grow and things add to it, you know. The accumulated flow, by the time it get 1,000 miles south, that boy is a flowing river. And I mention those things about because right now we're going through a nice psychological metamorphosis, a change. Well, it's not only a change. In a way, it's not really a big change, but it's a refocus. Uh, refocus in that focusing on the real things. For instance, our Negro imams had a thing here, how sad they was because the people wasn't paying attention to them anymore, something like that. And they felt like, you know, okay, they had the wrong focus. They had turned their life and their mission over to somebody else that it appeared that had more experience than they did, but they just had more people and more money. And so they gave up on what they was doing and joined them. And as they joined them, they associated those people and they used those people against technically they used them against the black movement. Though the people that feel sad. They used all over the United States. It was a policy that the people think, well, they all sound the same. So I could remember in 83, 82, in California, all of a sudden a nice Negro imam popped up and he was a good speaker. And that's what he did. If you would talk to him about structure or organization or let's make this work, you know, for Negroes, he would put you off. And I remember I told the guy, must have been some other time, some years later, like I would say in the 90s, I told him, because I'd see him at all the conferences, I said, hey, I heard you needed a lot of money for your Masjid, because he was raising funds for everybody else. But his Masjid, well, when I went there, maybe it wasn't like that long, but the wuzu water, it would go different places up in New York. But he would raise zillions for everybody else. Now, I still don't know what the exact deal was, whether they got a little skim off the top and, you know, a little small percentage. But he was raising 100, 200, 300,000. So if he was getting a little skim, it would be 10, 15,000 a whop, you know. I mean, if he was getting a small, just 1%, let's say 3 or 4 or 5%. If he was getting 5%, he was knocking it out of the park every time. And they had something, him and one of the Negro imams, if you was up there the other week, wherever we was, he was a big writer for us, for one of our main organizations. And when I came this way, all of them was, those were the people in the mix. And in 78, they had a thing they was going to start. It was called the Federation. The Federation was just what it sounded like. Federation, of Muslims, which would have been nice. And for some reason, it didn't go off. But during those times, I was kind of on the circuit, and I got around a lot. And pretty soon, they ease you off the circuit, and they bring other people. And I remember the brothers, if they had a program up in New York, we would pack up here, and we'd go up there and help them in security, anything, all that, many times. If they got an arrest for dope busting, which, like they was calling them dope busters for a while, because dope was big, boy, in the 90s. It's been big. It ain't slowed down a whole lot. So they got a reputation for all of that stuff. They never dealt with the people who specialized in that. And they had one demonstration. I went up to look at it, and they was walking down the street, and they had correctional officers. They had everybody with them. I said, "Hey, man, we can head on back, because we don't want to be." They're marching with the same people that are part of the problem, and that's not. Well, we didn't think that would be the solution to the problem. To make a long story short, we realized years ago that the people that have all the big centers now and everything, they were students in small little houses at that time, but they were on the university, and they were starting to invite, speakers, and they were starting to have fundraisers, and they were starting to acquire Masjid. Because in the old days, all the Masjid that they had, all our mosques, Masjid, were in the community, like this one. Their Masjid were around the campus. And they would just have an apartment near the campus. And when they had Juma, they would use the auditorium below the chapel or something like that. That would hold a lot of people, because they'd have plenty of people there. So they start raising funds to buy buildings, and they start buying big houses and then big buildings. And pretty soon, building Masjid from so by the mid 80s, they was up and rolling, By the mid 90s, they was almost it ran off. By 2005, 10, 15, they were what you see now. They was bringing Negroes in, and they would raise millions of dollars or what, But anyway, during this whole process, not everything changed. Not everything, but the ideas changed, the motivation changed, because the people that were here doing this were, let's say, African Americans coming out of the 60s and the 70s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, and they became Muslims. Their rhetoric was basically like ours is today, anti-American, and kind of black orientated. That was all. That's what That's what happened in all the Masjid. Okay, then later on, some of the big leaders that we had, when they took over, they mellowed the the talk. And then the other ones that was Dar Islam movement, they broke up the big leaders and put them in jail. And then those people that were left began to collaborate with the immigrant community. And pretty soon you'd be out there on your own, talking about the beast, and Babylon the Great has fallen. But the point is that, okay, I'll get back to the real point. Acres of Diamonds is when the people had the diamond mine is right there. He was already living on it, and he run everywhere else, right, to find it, Okay. So for us, our acres